Here we go.
Oh my goodness, look at all those people.
Just coming in now.
Wow. Wow.
My
Wow. I didn't realize we are all that popular, aren't we?
In the world.
Hello. Look at that. There's even Ellie Zegans coming all the way from
That'd be
Scotland.
great, because we do get some feedback from people.
Hi.
So,
There's one person there who's amazingly good looking, and the rest of them are not. Oh no. Sorry.
Is it the mirror you're looking at there?
Thank you so much, Daniel.
That was Tony, and she's right.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask everyone to mute themselves apart from Sharon, myself, and Daniel, please, because there is some feedback. That would be great. Thank you. Wonderful.
That's Liz.
All right.
There you go.
So, hi everyone. Welcome to another industry professional session here from Actors Coaching International. I am so pleased to be putting these on alongside Daniel as well. And yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, please feel free to use the chat. Thanks, Ainsley, for starting us off there. Yeah, please feel free to use the chat and just kind of chat away and everything. This is going to be a fantastic session. And I think, Daniel, because we were just talking before everyone popped in, this is our largest session yet with Sharon.
40 participants. Look at that.
Yeah, it's our largest session yet. So thank you, everyone. What a way to 2024.
So let me. We're recording this. I don't know whether Dan just said that. We're recording this. So if there's anybody object to this being recorded and put onto our YouTube channel, Actors Coaching International YouTube channel, we're just going to put it on there so people can have a look who didn't show up, or can come back and review it if you did show up. No, nothing. Right. So I want to say what my aim for this session is, if you don't mind, Dan and Sharon. And that's to show that Sharon Sorrentino, casting director extraordinaire, is a lovely person, and that the role of the casting director really is somebody who's on our side. And our can be actors, writers, it's everybody's side, really. So I'm going to challenge you all to, at the end, to private message me at the end. And if any of you say, I didn't like Sharon, I'll give you your money back.
I hope that won't be the outcome.
Well, they haven't paid Sharon, so don't worry about it. So I want to start off. I've got a load of questions here, Sharon. I didn't warn you. I didn't warn you about me.
That's all good. That's all good. And apologies, I'm quite croaky, but I'm not poorly. I won't infect you through the waves.
Get a virus, a computer virus, you mean?
Absolutely.
So I've got some questions, and you wrote a book, didn't you, called The Audition Room?
I did.
You did. And it says, The Audition Room, demystifying the casting process as a whole in order to open the door to a wider body of talent. And I think that's a good place for us to start. What the hell do you mean by that, Sharon Sorrentino, casting director extraordinaire?
What do I mean by that? So basically, it was kind of it's kind of a guidebook, really, in that there are interviews from industry professionals, and I've kind of diluted them down a bit, distilled them down a bit, and I've put in a bunch of advice from me and kind of chatting with other casting folk as well. Because I think the process of getting to an auditioning for something, whether it's in person or online, because obviously things have changed nowadays, and then getting a job can be incredibly daunting, and it's the way it's portrayed in the media is not really how things work. So you even have jobbing actors who I think are fearful of the process, and fearful of the individuals in that process. And actually, we're all very nice. As a general rule, I'm sure some of us aren't, but I think most of us are. So the idea in terms of demystifying is to kind of explain. So one of the chapters, I could go through the whole process of kind of, getting a script, breaking it down when you've got it, the actor, how to look at your scenes in preparation for an audition, kind of what to do on the day, all of those things. Looking at the business side of it, because also, you know, this business called show is a business. As much as it's art, it is also a business. And, you know, everybody involved has to remember that and protect themselves and not keep doing, you know, things for free. So that they're not running the risk of not being able to pay their rent or their mortgage or whatever, you know. And in terms of, you know, getting a wider talent pool, it's really, I mean, all of us on my side of things want to see as many new people as we can. There's a real joy in finding a new actor, whether they have lots of experience but you haven't met them before or seen their work, or whether they're straight from drama school, whether they haven't even been to drama school, but they've been taken on by an agent, or whether they've come through an open call, or, you know, an advert that you've put out on social media. However you find people, I think most of us on my side love seeing new people, and I think that's not often realized. I mean, sometimes as well, you watch telly and it's the same old faces quite often, and I think that can be quite depressing for actors. So I think it's good for them to know that that's not what we want to do. We don't actually want to regurgitate the same list of 10 names every time we're working on a new show. Hey, how about so and so? You know,
Yeah.
It's a little boring. We all want to see new faces. So I
I
mean, that
suppose
was
ultimately
sorry.
anybody can do that as well. You know, anybody can get
Yeah,
listed the same
exactly.
10 names and just put them in.
Exactly. You could literally watch 5 programs and go, that one, there they are, you know, and it just makes for rather boring viewing. And there is a very good actor who actually is very good, but at one time I couldn't turn on TV without seeing him, and I would be like, oh God, just.
Yeah.
And it made me not want to watch a show, because I was like, oh, come on, guys, that's just lazy. But he's actually a good actor. It's not on him. And good for him for getting the work, but there are other people who deserve to work as well. And we, on our side, want other actors to be working.
There's a lot of questions I've got from what you just said, and I think I'm in my mind. I think I'm going to split it between what you do in a way, and to give people an idea of how they can smooth in on what you do rather than go in opposition to it. And also the other side is how the people here, essentially, let's be honest, I would say most of the people on this, if not all, are here because they want to get work from you ultimately.
Of course.
And they want to be seen by you. And, you know, I didn't shave, but I would, I'm everybody else looks like they've almost shaved and maybe stuff. So people want to get work from you. And I think that what I'm going to lean towards later on, or not too much later on, how this lot can get in touch with you, can be in your thoughts, and how you can help them get through the door first time, and then give them the opportunities, the most that you can give them, so that the director and producers can choose them. So I think that's where I want to go with this. So from what your process, when a script lands on your desk from a director or writer or a producer that you've worked with before, we'll say. So you get that. So what do you do then? Okay,
so first of all, I read it. I know that sounds silly, but I don't skim read it. I read it. I read every word. I don't say it out loud, but I do read every word in my brain. So I read it properly is what I mean. I'm not being flippant, but some people can read at a pace and I can't. So I read it properly so that I get a full understanding of it. If anything has been sent with it, I read that. Now, often you get a treatment or a lookbook, you know, depends who sends you, what they call it, but they're basically the same thing. So a treatment or lookbook or mood board, it's all the same thing. It kind of gives you the director's intention. And sometimes it gives you their kind of ideal casting thoughts, not necessarily who they want to get, but that kind of an actor or that kind of a look. Sometimes it says more about the character than you would glean from the script. So I read everything they've sent to me, and then I kind of break down who those characters are. And I do you know, I say breakdown, but I literally write down what I think those characters are, who they are as people. I then have a think about those roles. So what actors do I know? I don't mean as in no, they're my mates, as in what actors work, who do I know? Whose work do I know well enough to think, oh, they would be great in here. And then I also think, now, who do I know who hasn't done this before that might be quite a nice idea, maybe a left field idea, and I write them down as well. I put a breakdown out to agents, not all agents, but Danny knows that he receives the breakdown. So, and there's a reason I don't send it to all agents all the time. One of those reasons is some agents don't actually read them. They don't read those character descriptions that I was at pains, and we were all at pains to write, and they just go age, gender, and you're left going, but this actor is nothing like this. You know, that whole body of work that they've done doesn't lean towards this, and that's not a left field idea. That's just age and gender, and sometimes it's not even age. But so I will send out a breakdown to agents, and then they will come back with ideas. And again, some will be left field, and some will be kind of, you know, this person is perfect. They are absolutely, they encapsulate that role. They're available. I will check availabilities of my ideas, and I also I do two other things. Is it two? I go through my emails, because I have a folder of interesting actors who have emailed me at one time, and I've gone, I haven't got anything for you, but you're interesting, and they go in that folder. And much as we remember a lot, we cannot remember every single email that we've been sent, especially if it's from somebody that we don't know. So I'll go back and refer through and go, oh, yes, there you go. Stick them on a list. And I do a search on Spotlight, because there are always people that you can miss and whose agents don't put them up for something for whatever reason, because they've read it and gone, I don't think, or not even that I don't think so-and-so would do it. They just haven't thought of that one. They've thought of someone else, whatever the project. So you'll avail check people and find they are available, but they weren't suggested, you know, for whatever reason. And I like to see new actors things. So that's kind of how I go about that. When the agent's suggestions come back, I will then go through my Spotlight, and you color code them. So you get kind of green, basically green is go, amber is maybe, red is no. And again, there are various reasons. I might know somebody that I know, KNOW, because I don't think they're right for that role. Maybe they've done too many similar roles, and that's not really a particularly interesting challenge for them, you know, or what have you. It doesn't mean I'm going, oh no, they're terrible. There are many reasons to say no, not on this project. Also, sometimes, you know, you've got another project coming along which would clash in dates, and you think, nah, not for this one, but for that one. So that, you know, I would go through that, and then we look at whether we're going to do auditions. On some projects, you will want to be doing straight offers to people with profile. And sometimes that's good, but I, as a general, think it's also good to not just do that, again, because I think it personally makes for a little bit boring. I understand why producers need it. You often need a recognizable face to guarantee an audience. So I understand it. But I think also the work should speak for itself. And if it does, if the work is of high enough quality, then people will watch. So there's that thing that you kind of have to, you know, tread that balance. So depending on how many roles, you might be going for one role, say, with profile, depending on what it is. And if you're dealing with networks, you might have to do all the leads with profile, and then you look at the secondary characters and you can have a bit more fun. It really depends. If it's a short film, again, depends on, you know, who your team are, the director, the producer, because even on a short, everybody wants somebody with profile, and it's always, you know, can we have Judi Dench? No, you can't. Is she your gran? No, well, then she's not going to do it. Come on, she's busy. She's a busy lady. Let's not be silly now. But if it's an idea with reach, I will always approach the agent and say, look, I know it's a long shot. Are they available? Would they consider a short? This script is beautiful, or this script is amazing, or whatever, you know, whatever I think the selling point is of the script. And then I would send it to their agent. If we're looking at doing auditions, and most of that now is self-tapes as a first round, because of COVID. We'll come back to that. Even before COVID, that was happening a fair amount, but we'll come back to that. So if we're looking at then self-tapes, then I will send out tape requests from people I've thought of, people I've searched, people who've been suggested from their agents. And then from then on, you know, we might be doing recalls, but sometimes people just make offers. You'd be surprised how many TV shows actors are not recalled for because the director is working on another show before they come onto this episode, and the producers are already on set going, I'm putting out fires daily, I don't have time, you know. So it really depends on the production whether you get the recalls or not. From then, if it's a TV show, you have a network, so there's lots of hoops that these tapes kind of have to go through, and people that have to see them and have an opinion. Once everybody is kind of narrowed it down, and then it goes to network for approval, then they would come back, and then we would make you know, an offer to the actor, and then the negotiations start, and then hopefully somebody gets that job. So I think that's the process.
Wow.
I would say in a nutshell.
Brilliant.
I feel like
Brilliant.
we're on at length.
I think,
No, that's brilliant. Danny, sorry.
yeah, you know, that is fascinating, Sharon. And I think a lot of actors don't realize the stuff that goes on way before casting comes in, way before that brief kind of drops on spotlight, because you know, that brief is, you know, weeks, months after the whole process has started, you know.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
the amount of people it has to go through. Just to take you back there, Sharon, and I always recommend this to actors. You know, I know you said that you have a folder on your computer of interesting actors. Simone does, Shaheen does. I know Rob Stern does. You know,
I think we probably all do. I think
it's one thing you have to keep. You know, it's part of parcel of the actor's life. Keep emailing, keep kind of sending.
So let's go into that a bit, Dan. Let's go into that if you don't mind, because all of us, not all of us, but again, most people here probably think, well, how do I become one of those people? You know, it's how do I fill that how do I bridge that gap between me now and me being that person that you're going to make an offer to without asking. Without auditioning. So that's an interesting one. So what Dan just said about your interesting file.
Yeah.
Can you give some examples of how people that you know, you don't have to give names, of course.
Sure.
But some examples of people who've actually got into your interesting file.
Absolutely.
What happened?
So I think, as a general, we get inundated with emails. So, and we generally speaking don't reply to those, you know, hi, you can see me in Doctors, or hi, please think of me if you've got a role that's relevant. We don't reply. And the reason is we've all worked out why we have to not reply, because we replied in the beginning. And then you end up with pen pals, and we literally just don't have the time. If you get 50 emails on a day, I'm not saying I get 50 emails every day, I don't, but you might have 50. It might be the first of the month where everybody is going, right, this is my mail out day. And you get this onslaught of emails saying, please think of me. And it's a lot. If you reply to everybody, they are all going to reply back, because understandably, actors want to keep a conversation going, so you keep thinking of them, and that just takes out time from our working day. So what we will do is we'll read it, and occasionally we'll go, actually, I'm going to email them back because that was that email made me laugh or whatever, or actually I know I've got something coming up that they would be right for, but it's not yet. So that might be a reason that you would reply back to someone. Or if they said, can you come and see me in this show, and you can't make it, generally speaking, I would say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make that, just so that they don't feel it's gone into the ether and been ignored. But of emails that stand out, it's the material. I mean, yes, if you make us laugh, that always helps, but I wouldn't worry about writing a stand-up routine for your mail out.
And that's very subjective, I would imagine.
Well,
Sharon.
exactly.
I've got lots of dad jokes which you wouldn't appreciate, I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure I would. But yeah, I mean, we're all subjective, and you don't know what mood the person is in who's going to be receiving it. So we could have just come off a really horrible call from a horrible producer berating us for some imagined crime, or because they got something wrong and they want to take it out on us, or perhaps we did get something wrong. But anyway, so you don't know what mood we're in when we get your email. So you don't want to be overly familiar, No, hi babes, none of that nonsense. But something that is succinct as an email, I would say. We don't want to read this whole long diatribe about why you got into acting and your gran and your long lost cat, and all of that doesn't help us. But, you know, have a reason for the email. So are you about to be in an episode of something? I mean, I always say doctors, because it's a brilliant thing for actors, whether you love the show or you know, or not. It's actually, it's a bit like Holby, and sadly, you know, Holby and Casualty have gone, but there's that it's the, what's the word, I can't think what the word is, but basically it's a staple, that's the word. So they employ actors and they've always got episodes on, and doctors in particular, it's like 5 days a week. This is great. This is a great opportunity to say, you know, to bag an episode of Doctors and write to people and say, you know, I'm in Tuesday's episode if you can watch it. And, you know, people may or may not, but also they know you're doing something. Or if you're in an episode of something, or you're going to be in a theatre run of something. So those...
What do you think of a picture with that, though, Sharon? Sorry, but, you know, if they've got a thumbnail picture of themselves.
Thumbnail, yes. Not one of those huge, big 25 meg pictures, you know, of a JPEG, because all that does is slow down our inbox and then we have to delete it. You send something small and a hyperlink to your Spotlight CV, then it takes up less room and you're more likely to be kept, I would say.
So it's about making it easy to be kept, really.
Yeah,
you know?
Basically make it easy to be kept. So don't make it too long so that we read it, we get to the point quickly. So if you're in something, tell us. And the next one splits people. So I am not a fan of getting emails where people say, hi, I'd love some feedback on my show reel, but that's not my job. My job is not to feed back on your show reel. My job is to find actors and cast. And you're asking me to take time out of that to feed back. Do you want my honest opinion? Your show reel might be terrible. You know, it might be brilliant, but it's also not my job. Now, some casting directors are quite happy to have that question and they will go back with stuff. I sometimes do reply to people if I thought their show was A, particularly good, or B, had material in it that they need to take out because it's doing them a disservice. Because again, we look at everybody, we just don't have the time to reply. We don't necessarily look at you on the day that you send it either, because we might be in the middle of a project, in which case we're probably at our computers from 7 in the morning until midnight, apart from running to the loo or running to get a sandwich, whatever. So you probably won't get a reply. You might even not be looked at on that day, might not even be that week. You'll be looked at some point, and if whoever it is that's receiving it, me, you know, in my example, looks at it and goes, oh, okay, so they've got this episode. Well, I missed that episode of Doctors because that was 2 weeks ago, whatever. But great. So part of your brain goes, great, they've been cast in something. And if we're honest, part of you is going, they've been validated on a kind of brutal level of sheer honesty. That's much easier than saying, hi, I'm an actor, or I want to be an actor, but I haven't done anything. That's much harder. And that's where training is really helpful. And it's where doing classes, and I know you guys do your, I'm going to say pick and mix, but that's the wrong name.
Well,
that's the right name.
We do.
It's the right name. I thought I got it wrong then.
You know, I was going to say to you, you talk about Doctors, Casualty, you know, and Sharon, you and I have worked on, you've called in and also booked many day player roles through us, which is great. And, you know, I'm doing a day player role session as part of my pick and mix sessions in February. If you want to know more information about that, if you want to be booked on a day player role, also commercial self-tape class, because commercials are fantastic to work on. And then Jen, who's just joined us on the call, is doing cold read and script analysis as well. So do join us for one or any of those, because they are so good. The training you'll pick up, just being in class, it is fantastic.
So sorry to go back into that a little, Sharon. The people who've got some credits, maybe, or they don't feel their credits maybe are huge, or you don't feel their credits are huge, or they're not that huge. That's up to ones who's starting to get some traction. have you got any examples of anyone who's really retweaked your fancy? Somebody who's sort of broken through that. The credits aren't enough, but I really like the way they approach me.
Sure. I don't think it's so much about how they've approached, because I mean, for me, it's being succinct and it's sending me the material, and then the material being good, being good enough for me to see what they can do. Because quite often there are show reels on Spotlight or Mandy, wherever, that it's awful. It's somebody doing King Lear in their kitchen, and I'm sorry, but that's not going to get you a job, And it's also somebody of completely the wrong generation doing King Lear in their kitchen. And I love short films. So, if this is you in a short film, I'm happy to see it. As long as I can see you, make sure that I can see and hear you. There's another thing that splits people down the middle, casting directors and agents, which is purpose-made show reels. I'm all for them. Lots of people aren't. Now, the reason I'm all for them is I know that's not you in Downton Abbey. I know it's not. It doesn't matter. I'm seeing you with material. I'm seeing what you do with the material. I'm seeing you play off another actor. I'm seeing how the camera reacts to you, because I work primarily in screen. And those things are important to me. Whether it's really, you were really in Downton or whatever else, Luther, it doesn't matter to me, but it does matter to some people. They see the name Luther and they go, ooh. And then they feel somehow cheated. I'm not one of them. So as I say, it splits us down the middle. It's very Marmite. I personally think have something on Spotlight that shows how the camera reacts to you and how your relationship with the camera, but it has to be of the better quality. If it's awful, then don't put it on. And we do sometimes take a punt on people who don't have a show reel, even for screen. It really depends on how much time we've got on a project, the luxury of time, which we don't always have. But if we do have, and if we're getting self-tapes, we ask for more self-tapes than we would ask for people to come in an in-person audition.
So I think we'll go into that a little bit, if you don't mind, the self-tape and the in-person audition. But what I get as well from what you just said is, what they want. Well, you've just said it's split down the middle, so they doesn't exist.
No,
what
exactly.
they want in your case is different than what they want in somebody else's case. So you're going to do your own thing.
You do, yeah, because and like I was saying before about, I like things that make me laugh. However, you don't know what mood that person is when they open your email. So kind of a huge, big stand-up routine might not be what somebody wants to read. I think, for me, put my teeth in. Generally, and for most of us, nice and succinct, so we're not having to spend a long time reading. Tell us what you're flagging. My episode of blah, or I'm in a run at the King's Head, or I'm about to be at the National. Whichever it is, everything has value. And don't be worried about saying, oh, I'm doing this bit of fringe theatre. Well, you know what, we've all paid our dues and gone to things wherever it is that might have been a bit of a schlep to get there. We like to see stuff, and it's important that we see stuff and that we are always increasing our knowledge of actors, because that's a pool of people that is forever changing. There are new people coming in and there are people retiring, and I don't mean retiring because they're 65. I mean retiring because for whatever reason they're taking time out of the industry, or they want to do something else with their life. You'd be surprised how many people go into the therapies from acting. Some people go into agency, some people go into...
I mean, you need therapy as well from acting.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I do think, actors are often very, very empathetic people because of the nature of the job. You're trying to live somebody else's experience. You're trying to show us that full character, which to me means you must have a lot of empathy. Obviously, we've all met the exceptions to the rule, but generally, I think actors are lovely people and they have that empathy, which is kind of part of the reason they want to perform. They want to tell somebody else's story. I went on a complete...
Sorry, I know Danny was
sorry.
Danny was going to...
So we've got about half an hour left, by the way, and I want to open this up to anyone that might have any questions for you, Sharon, because obviously this is really fast. And, if anyone has any questions, pop it in the chat and we'll come to you as well.
I'll open the chat on the side.
yeah, and just, maybe raise your virtual hand or just ask us something in the chat, anything like that as well. Because
yeah, but let's put it in the chat, Dan, just so if there's loads of them, then we can sort of maybe combine 2 or 3 of them together, possibly. And
yeah, I mean, there's none at the minute, so but yeah,
but
that's
I've got plenty.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Jeremy is asking about a number of short excerpts on a show reel, on an active spotlight.
Yeah, so on Spotlight, you can have as many show reels as you like. Now, I mean, I would avoid having 10 because then we kind of look at it and go, oh my God, that's, again, it's an onslaught of information. But I mean, you can have like drama show reel, comedy show reel, period drama show reel, action reel, fight reel, motion capture reel, weapons reel, you know what I mean? And those are just things you can have. This is me horse riding, because again, if you're looking at fantasy work, horse riding and weapons is really important, as is motion capture. Wire work, all of that stuff, that's really important. You can also, if you don't have the facility to edit, you can, instead of having like, this is my show reel of X amount of projects that I've put together, you can have those things separately. So, this is me in Doctor. Sorry, I know I always go back to Doctors, but this is me in Doctors. I don't know, this is me in the Bourne Ultimatum. There we go, something different. This is me in, in my advert for Twix, whatever it is, you can have those. All of those things help, because again, it's about showing us the relationship that you have with the camera. So I think
Okay.
that's fine.
That's good. So when you ask the question, Danny will probably ask the question on your behalf. Put your just wave so Sharon can see who's asking. So Jeremy, you put 2 hands up in 2 yellow hands up in a prayer thing. So just wave that. That was Jeremy who's just asked that question. Just so you can we have an opportunity to connect with
through
people.
the top to
Annika's got a great question here.
Wave, Annika, where are you?
Is Sharon going to festivals? And she says the Glasgow Film Festival, and would she mind meeting actors?
So I'm not currently. So for a little bit of too much information, too much personal information, my mum is not very well. So over the last couple of years, I've been going to stuff less, and I'm not currently London based. So things like, are you going to this shorts festival, which normally I would do. I love going to the London Film Festival, and I love going to I love short films because they're just so much freedom. I love watching them and I love casting them, but there's so much artistic freedom in them. However, because of my situation, the last 2 years I've done less of that, and I'm not going to London as often. So, and I can't make it up to Glasgow, no. However, I am happy to watch, because sometimes people give you a private screener with a password if you've got a short or a film that's going to be released, as long as obviously they're not shared on social media. I'm happy to watch those, but I can't make them in person at the moment.
No problem. Thank you. Stuart's got a really interesting question here, because branding is a really kind of hot topic. And
wave, Stuart, wave.
Where I am in the US, like branding is everywhere, like actor branding, certain types and everything. And it's a great question, Stuart. Stuart says, I know my branding, but I love to play away from it, which of course, it's fantastic. What are your thoughts, please? And I suppose it also plays into headshots as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, I think the problem with branding is one of those things. And again, these are Marmite. They kind of are important, especially if you're in the States, especially. But I think we all, as an audience, like to see someone play not in typecast roles. I think this is partly why I love seeing comedians in drama, because my God, they're good.
Yeah.
But your first instinct is, really? Bradley Walsh. I mean, look at him. Bradley Walsh is brilliant.
Yeah.
But a first feeling is, but they're a comedian, and then you watch them, and actually they've got all the pathos and and all of that. They've got the sincerity. It's not just, and where's the gag? It's not that. So I love seeing people play away from typecasting, and typecasting is a thing.
Yes.
There's always going to be that. People will go, that's not how I see you. I see you as X. And there's not much you can do about that, because it's in the eye of the beholder.
But it also makes it easier, though, Sharon, doesn't it? It makes it easier for us to not spend money on everything and not do
Yes.
all classes and
Yes,
all.
it does if it does if you're happy kind of staying within that track. And I think that's the thing where doing classes with other people can be of help. So like your classes that you're running, there are various ones that also have kind of like casting director or director led workshop. And I think don't spend too much money on doing these all the time. I think, again, you have to protect yourself. You're working in a business, but I do think that they are actually a very good way to work with people that you haven't worked with, which you can always learn from. And it's not necessarily about bagging a job on their next production, whoever that person is, whether it's you guys on the Pick and Mix, you know, whether it's a casting director led workshop or a director led workshop. I think
it's worth, sorry to interrupt again. I think it's worth mentioning, Sharon, that we're trying to twist your arm to come and do a workshop for us.
Absolutely.
Coming up soon. So for anyone who's interested in doing a workshop with Sharon, send a message to Georgie at hello@actorsci.com. hello@actorsci.com. So you can go on the list for this potential thing that I'm now putting pressure on Sharon to do for us.
That's all good.
Us.
Just to go back to the branding thing, I think it's so important, and I'm always saying this to actors as well worldwide. It starts with your headshot, and it's the single most important part of casting. I used to work for Dan Hubbard, right? And it's exactly the same thing. It's like, you know, this is for someone for a casting director who doesn't know you, the thing they're themselves to turn over your spotlight is your headshot. And the one trap a lot of actors make is being too general. Oh, I can play everything. I can do this. I can play. You know, you want me to play funny, or you want me to play? I can do everything, and it's just getting specific as narrow it down a little bit.
But for your main headshot, because you can have a number of secondary headshots on Spotlight. Your main one has to really say something about you. You have to be engaged with the camera. I'm going to show you two things I don't want to see on a headshot. And this. Oh my God, this one in particular. Why am I looking at your ear? Why am I looking at your ear? There are some beautiful photos on Spotlight, and it's portraiture, and they've lit people to look like ballerinas. It's not a headshot. Eyes at the camera, thinking something, engaged with your face as it is now, currently, not 15 years ago. But you know, Dan is right. That has to be specific. And also, just so you know what you're up against, when we're looking through Spotlight, if I'm doing a search for a particular accent or skill set, for example, there are so many actors on Spotlight. I think it's something like 180,000 now since they've all kind of amalgamated. It used to be 60,000 and now suddenly it's like... we're looking at a page of 50 actors. So... I mean, they've increased the size of it, but it's basically about that big.
Yes, it's a thumbnail size.
So it's, I mean, they're slightly bigger than, we call them thumbnails, but it's slightly bigger than thumbnails. So probably you're looking at from your nail down to your knuckle. Yeah. That's what I have when I, and it needs to grab my attention. If I don't already know you, it needs to grab my attention. I need to think, oh, okay, let me have a look at them. Because all I see is your headshot and the name of your agent. And then I need to go in, open up your Spotlight page, see your show reel, see a list of credits, see where you're based, because that's also an important one, see your skills. But yes, your headshot is very important. Whether it's inside or outside is it doesn't matter as long as we can see you and it's lit well. What else was I going to say? The photographer needs to kind of build up a rapport with you as well, because for it to be a good headshot, you need to feel comfortable in that moment. Even if what you're going for is, I'm the tough guy, you still need to feel comfortable in your own body when you do that photo. So they need to build up a rapport with you so that you are, you know, comfortable in front of the camera.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt again. Sorry, Sharon.
Yes.
I'm really aware of time here, and it's just we're already 3/4 of the way through. So I just want to, if we can just, I know Danny was going to say something. I don't want him to tread you the toes there, Dan.
That's okay. Let's move on. And you know,
I've got a question. Can I ask a question though, Dan? Sorry. It's about moving on to the actual self-tape side of it, and
Yes.
then maybe the audition room. It's this being noticed thing, this thumbnail thing to get noticed on it is one thing, but when you've got all the show reels coming in, can you give some examples of times when you've stood up and you've remembered the person who did the tape?
Yeah, sure. I mean, to be fair, I often, from one project to another, will ask some of the same people to tape because they didn't get the last job, but I really liked them and I thought they were smart. And I will quite often, you know, there's emails from me to agents going, look, I'm desperate to book them a job at some point. Can they tape for this project? And that's because their self-tape was very good. But you're not always going to bag every job because only one actor can get it and more than one actor is taping for it. So you can't ever always get every job that you tape for. Things that stand out for me on a self-tape, sorry, my voice keeps going. Preparation. And that's the same with coming into the room, is preparation. Be off book if you can. Something that's really distracting is watching a tape of somebody doing this. Up to the camera, because basically I spend half the time looking at the top of your head and I'm not getting your eye line. And what we want is your eye line. I don't mean staring at the camera because that's presenting, and for most of us, when we will have a self-tape, we want you looking slightly off camera as you would if you were doing a close-up on television. So like at the moment, for me, I'm looking directly at you, but I'm not looking at the camera. Does that make sense? So, sorry, I went so fast then I could have lost my place. So, preparation, be off book, ideally have somebody reading in the other lines. And we need to hear them as well. There's a strange phenomena of people having someone else either phoning in or recording it so low that we can barely hear it. And I would say, well, what's the point of them being there then? Part of acting is reacting. So if you're not actually reacting to what the person is saying, you're just saying your own cues, you're not really reacting. For me, a self-tape where someone doesn't have a reader is a really weird watch. But for a director and a producer, if we're looking at TV shows, for example, they're not the writer. And they may well be working on another show currently. So they don't know your cues. They don't know what someone else is saying to you. Yeah. We know because we sent out the sides. We said do scene 16 or whatever. But even then, it's a difficult watch. If you can't get a reader, record it yourself. There are ways to do it on your computer or on your phone so that you've still got someone time it, you know, so that it plays out. So you're not having to do stop start all the time, but time it and leave the gap and then record it. So either it's playing off your phone or if you're recording on your phone, play it from your computer, whichever way, if you can't get a reader. Because you can't always.
If anyone needs a reader, by the way, we have loads here at ACI. Just reach out, and you know, my union folk will know that as well. Just like reach out and ask. Cecile has got a great question here, and as a good agent, I generally agree with this. But she asks in an intro email, if you don't have a lot of credits, is there any value on highlighting near misses? For example, being shortlisted or penciled down to the last round for a feature film. I love
yes.
It. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say absolutely yes, because the thing is, you could have had a year of near misses, but we won't know because we didn't see you in those productions.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and this happens to all actors, doesn't matter how good you are, it's not a comment on your talent. You can't bag, like I said before, you can't bag every job.
Yeah.
So you might have a year of getting nothing, and it's a horrible reality for actors. But you might have been down to the last 2 on 5 of 10, and you might have been down to the last 4 on the other 5. That means you're doing things right.
Yes.
But performance is subjective. So the casting director may have been saying, this should be Danny, this should be Danny, this should be Danny. And then the producer's going, well, actually, I prefer Jeff, you know, or the network comes back and says, actually, we've changed this role. Now they're a penguin and they're going to be animated. I mean, you'd be surprised. But there are lots of reasons you might not get that gig that are not to do with you, but you might get right close to it. So yes, flag it. Absolutely.
And, you know, in our email, Sharon, I've said to you countless times, oh, you know, has just recently been recalled with Rob Stern, for example, or with Nina, or, you know, right? And just
Yeah.
oh, great, fantastic. I just want to briefly chat about your upcoming stuff, because the last time we spoke, obviously you were working with, I think you were working with Sophie, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I quite often, I mean, my gigs, there's a mixture. So, I mean, I loads of shorts because I like shorts, sometimes commercials, corporates, the occasional indie project. And the thing with indie projects is sometimes they happen and sometimes you do all the work and then we don't get the funding. It is what it is. And then this last year I did a fair bit of work with Sophie Holland, and with Alice, Purser. So we just worked on Call the Midwife, which was lovely, which is out at the moment. And Alice Searby on a couple of projects, Canadian TV and a film that have been out, and loads of films that, as happens, get shunted to the next year because they're trying to find finance and there are windows. So yes, those were them. Upcoming for this year, I don't know yet. So we're waiting to see, fingers in pies and waiting to see, basically. So, which is kind of quite exciting.
It's exciting. Siobhan, my agent has recommended that if I'm submitted for a role that I'm passionate about, I should email the casting director again, personally, to put myself forward. Is that too much? Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? There's nothing wrong with a double-pronged attack. Do it.
Yeah. Double pronged. Yeah.
Did you wave, Siobhan? Did you wave so that? Yeah. So good. So we know who you.
Yeah. Lovely. Hello to Mariah in Chicago, I believe.
Ooh,
Hi, Mariah.
She just got caught out there. She was leaving.
And this is a great question, and I think this is one of the best questions, because obviously we all want to be booked, we all want to work, we all want to do things, and everyone here is self-employed, including you. You know what I mean? So we're all trying to do the same thing. What are some things actors can do to make your job easier?
Make sure their Spotlight CV is up to date, and their age range is appropriate. Their skill set is accurate. So don't say horse riding if really it was a donkey ride at Skeggy when you were 10. I say that, and I had to cast a commercial once where I needed women who could juggle. The main had to juggle. And of the women I brought in who had asterisked, which means I'm highly proficient juggling, most of them came in and did this. That's not juggling, that's passing a ball from one hand to another. The guys who came in on a different role, because so many guys are sporty, were like, oh, but yeah, I can juggle. Like, this is embarrassing, and it made me look inept. So I was not very happy about that. But it was that's a real thing, is those skills are important. Also, things like your driver's license. That's a really important skill, because if you think about the type of TV shows, if you're going to be going in for a cop show, if you're going to be a copper, you have to drive.
Yes.
And a provisional license is all well and good, but that means you need a qualified driver with you, and they can't always just cheat it with a member of crew in the back, in the back seat. So I would say get your driver's license as well, but make sure all your skills are there. So if you have a skill that you haven't put it there, because you don't know when it might come in handy. Make sure your language skills are on there and they are accurate again, because you might be going up for a show where there isn't time to get it translated. I worked on a big show with Sophie that's set in Turkey, and the scripts weren't translated, so they were in English, but we were looking at people who were of Turkish descent quite often, and we were just having to say, look, read it in English. If you can you also read it in Turkish, but you'll have to translate it. And the amount of people who had Turkish on their Spotlight and they couldn't do it. It's like, but then you've wasted our time and yours, because you're not going to get the job, in all honesty, you know what I mean? So they have to be very, very accurate, I would say. List your credits, put them in the appropriate headings so that when we look at your spotlight, we can see immediately television, film, not in this order necessarily, but television, film, theatre, commercials, corporate, rehearsed reading, site specific, whatever it is, rather than having to trawl through everything and view more, especially if you did loads last year. We're just constantly hitting view more. So help us out so that it's as quick as possible. You know, and again, make sure your headshot's up to date. Make sure your show reel is doing you the favor it needs to do. Make sure it shows you at your best. Make sure it shows different types of work so that we don't think you're a one-trick pony.
Or one-trick Skegness donkey.
Absolutely.
Sorry, dad jokes. So you laughed. You do laugh at dad jokes.
So just to, you know, if anyone would like to join us on your upcoming workshop you are doing with us, Sharon, do drop us an email, hello@aci.com, or for mine and Jen's pick and mix sessions, have the same email, because they will sell out, and that's it. We're not doing them until next year. So yeah, this is your chance. Daniel, what else do you have?
Well, I've got one about in the room. A question. We've only got 5 minutes, but it's about when you get in the room, and you've said in one of the quotes of somewhere or other that I read before, and I was doing the research on you. You said bring you in to see what you can do, and it just made me think about about us. You know, the fear in a way that actors have, I guess, or some actors have, or the trepidation, the nerves, the doubts about how much can I, how far should I go when I go
how
in
much
the
can I
room?
play?
How much can I play?
Sure.
So have you got? Can you say something towards that?
I'm going to say a phrase that you're all going to hate, because we all say it, but it's true. Bold choices, and I know you all hate to hear that phrase, but the reason that we say we want to see a bold choice is because that's what we remember, and the same with the team. It might not be the right choice for the show, but also, when you're in the room, if you've had a script or sides come through, and you're like, I mean, it could go this way or this way. I really
What
don't.
do you mean, though, Sharon? What do you mean by a bold choice? That's Well, can you give me an example?
I'll give you an example. You're coming in for a bad guy.
Yeah.
Is he a thug, or is he very intelligent and he's manipulating other people? Or is he the result of years and years of bullying? So those are three.
Okay.
Bad guy.
So a bold choice is really committing to the history of the character.
Exactly.
And what pops up as a result of
What's
that.
their backstory? What's brought them here?
And not holding back because you're intellectually thinking what they want to see.
Exactly. Because we'll tell you.
Yeah.
We'll tell you what we want to see. If it's something very specific, we'll tell you. If we want to see your interpretation, then that's what we do. But also, you can always say in the room and on a self-tape, I wasn't sure if you were going for this or this. So in the room, you can say, shall I do this first? And then we could go for that if there's time. That's perfectly acceptable, because also it might not be clear, and they might be two very, very valid, very different choices that are interesting. And on a self-tape as well, you can do more than one take. Don't do it for every single thing. Don't do 3 versions that are actually the same, which I have had to sit through of each scene, because I'm like, why are you giving me 3? I've now watched 20 minutes of a self-tape for something that should have been 4 minutes. And it was all the same, so
yeah.
So I'd say, if you're thinking it could be this or it could be that, make sure they're different enough. Yeah. And also self-tape, do it more than once and send us the best version. Don't send us one that's clearly your rehearsal, because you've only had a very limited time with your reader. Rehearse it first. Ask them if they can do another version, so you've got the best one to send through. But I would say be bold with those choices, because also, true story, true anecdote. I was working on a project where the description of a character was very clear. What the director had told me was very clear. So that's the note I gave everybody who came in. And one of the actors had been away at Glastonbury and had not read his email properly, came in and did something completely different. The director went, that's what I want. And he got the job. Everyone else had been working to note that I'd been given from the writer-director. This guy came in and made a bold choice.
Yeah.
And bagged the job. Everyone else had been in line with the project. He came in and did something weird. Not weird. He came in and did something different. but it really worked. And he wasn't doing something bizarre. He'd found a different truth when he read the script.
Wow.
He was not an animated penguin.
He was not Penguin, no.
I've really enjoyed this session.
Yeah.
It's been great.
I
Thank
hope I haven't gone on tangents too often.
No,
No,
it's been,
no,
it's
Sharon.
been really, we've crammed a lot in, haven't we, Dan?
We have. And I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for joining us. Jen, thank you for being here as well. Yeah, and Sharon, thank you.
I want to say one thing before we finish, though, Dan. One thing, just to everybody, because I can see out of here that 85% of you, pretty much, or something, have been to classes with us, and I just want to know what the hell the other 15% of you have been doing, and why haven't you come to any of our classes? And come to some of our classes, for God's sake, is all I want to say, just to wrap myself up here.
Yeah. Send us an email, book in, honestly.
Just saying.
Whatever.
Just saying.
Can I do one quick shameless plug?
Yes,
Which
you
is,
can.
if you find yourself thinking, oh, I might get Sharon's book, please get it from the Book Guild, which is the publisher, and not Amazon, because Amazon are a horrible company. And also, I shouldn't say that online, but they are. But also, they have the first edition, which will probably come up, and there is a second edition that is much more relevant. So I would, and also the first edition is no longer in print, so it's much more expensive. So I would say go to the Book Guild if you are. Don't feel that you have to buy my book just because you've seen me blab on for a bit.
Yeah.
And go on
I think in terms
leave
of
my place.
shameless plugs, it would be really remiss of me not to mention my book, which I don't give a shit if you buy it on Amazon or from the local supermarket. The life coaching approach to screen acting. Just thought I'd say that.
I didn't know you wrote a book, Daniel. You've never mentioned it about 8 times before.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, and we'll see you next month for the next one.
And we don't have to give anyone their money back, because I think that we've proved that you're a really nice person.
Honestly, I would say we are, for the main part. All casting directors are actually very nice, and we love actors. We're on your side. We are always on your side. We only bring people in who we think would be good in the job, because at the end of the day, we're freelance. If we make a terrible cast, we won't get hired again. So if we're bringing you in or we're asking you to tape, it's because we've seen something that made us think you would be good in that role. You know.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
the
Thanks for
next
being
one.
part of a lovely community. Thank you for supporting each
Thank
other.
you.
Keep doing it. We're all in
Thank
it
you very
together.
much.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, all. Bye. Bye. They're all going. I love watching
Thank
this.
you so much.
Zip, 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 zip. They're all going. Zip,
Bye.
zip, zip, zip. We've got to keep all the comments down. We should send me the comments thing, if you the file.
How do I do that?
It shall come up as a file when it comes up at the end. Do you want to stop recording?
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll say goodbye to Sharon nicely at the end. We'll say
Lovely.
what we really think when everyone's left. Case, you have to go, and Ben, you have to go. Case and Ben, you have to go.